What's up, everyone? This is Big Poner, and this is going to be the guide. It will be the last guide you need to make all of your choices and take your Toxic Rain into the end game. If you guys are new to the channel, I'm going to explain how I do my first build. My first build, I always use 3 guides. I do one really early to give people league relevant tips as far as like the cheapest and best way to get their build as strong as possible and start progressing easily and smoothly. I've already made that guide. The second guide is kind of like an update guide. It's still really early. This is the week 1 update. Like right now, actually, we've just passed the 1 week mark by 11 minutes. So this guide basically is going to show you what the build looks like. Let you see what the build looks like, how it's playing. I'm going to show you the type of gear that I'm in. Right now, this is working on my last Watchstones for Awakener 8. Like actually completing them, not like I just threw some stones in there and I'm playing at that level. That's actually the completion I'm at, so you'll get to see what it looks like against the Guardians. And then you'll get to, obviously you're seeing the gameplay. And then I'm going to go over like every single option and the stuff that you should be looking towards. I'm going to give, relevant information as far as like pricing on the different stuff, the reason why I haven't picked up certain stuff yet, maybe some options that I haven't chosen to take myself and the reason why I haven't. But
I'm not up to that just yet.
really strong build. It's gonna make pretty much all the content like really easy for you. Like I don't have a lot of like some of the best upgrades yet, and it's mainly because of like accessibility. Like we're still in the first week, so some stuff is like
my mana is gone.
So limited in the game still at this point that they're either not accessible or they're just like so expensive that I'd rather just wait. Like some of the alt quality gems are like like 15 EX for a level 1, and it's just like I'm not spending that because I know in a week it's gonna be like an EX or less. So 15 EX now for that damage boost just isn't worth it to me, so I'm just gonna wait. And that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm gonna explain to you guys. Come on, dude, go to your next phase. I got frozen. Normally that boss room, I killed that guy too fast. Normally that boss room spawns ads, and I would have been able to get my flask full again. So this.
Welcome. Time has no meaning.
I'm gonna be doing this without flasks.
Your pain will be endless.
Distasteful!
Without all of my flasks.
I shall free you.
Which definitely slows it down a little bit.
Fire.
Just run around. Mirage archers do damage. So I'm kind of being like sparing on when I use my flasks there because I started without all of my flasks. So it would have been a little bit faster, but you can see how easy. I mean, this is as hard as it gets as far as advancing your atlas because I'm on my last completions. Like so, if you're wondering whether the build is going to work and be able to complete content, I mean that pretty much shows it. Alright, let's put this watchstone in. This sounds done. Now I'll get them into the right place later. Let's just put this somewhere. Okay. So now let's talk about it. I'm going to show you the gear that I have. So I am missing some of the best damage upgrades. I still haven't gotten the multi-mod for my bow, which is absolutely the biggest possible damage upgrade that you can get for the build, and I don't have that, and you just saw like it just completely shat on the Conquerors, and it does pretty much with everything. I've already done the Awakener 7 Sirus completion, shat on that. The only thing that I want to say for Sirus is you should have an extra. This is like a little tip as far as making Sirus fights or any like extended boss fight much easier. You could even do it for Conquerors. It would make it like way easier. You know, get an extra enduring mana flask and an extra life flask, and then just swap these like this, and run two mana flasks, and that's gonna make Sirus like really easy, because then you're gonna be able to not worry about. You're gonna be able to not have to worry about the fight before he comes down each time. Set up your totems and then just start stacking this. You pop your enduring mana flask one time and you're able to just set up like a ton of stuff, so that the second he pops up he just takes all of that stacked damage. Like I've got a duration on this of 2.14 seconds, so you want to start shooting like I want to start shooting 2.1 seconds before he's able to start taking damage. That way the second he spawns in, he takes max stack, so he immediately goes to taking max DPS from me. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember, the bow, like this is the gonna be like the end game bow. The only thing that we would take past this would be doing a plus 4 bow, or like, you know, if you get something really crazy like a synth bow that has +1 and then implicit, and then past that, like that would be like a super min max item. Or like if you went for a +4 bow, that's using expensive fossil crafting. I might do that this league and cover how to make, you know, a +4 bow. But this is like our biggest damage upgrade, and I don't have it. So if you're wondering if the build is going to have enough damage, the answer is obviously yes. So let me go and show you. We'll bring this up. We're scaling our damage based on the dot. So right now in my build, I am at a level 26 Toxic Rain. If I were to have the multi-mod, just the +2 to socketed supports, it would raise the level of my Toxic Rain by 2. So just that would add. I gotta find the tab again. Oopsies, wrong tab. We're gonna use that tab later. So 26 is 526 base dot. Raising it 2 levels brings it up to 643. That's like 25% base increase to damage. So like an actual 25% increase to damage just for that one stat. So that's like as soon as you can afford to get that, or in my case, as soon as you can find someone that has it, or you can unlock it yourself, which it's unlocked from Mastermind, and you know you have to be lucky enough to get the item to drop that you can ID. So then you can craft that. Or you have to know someone that has it unlocked, and I don't. So I don't have it yet, unfortunately. But I will have it soon. Okay, so I'm using basically at this point in the league, and this is kind of what you want to go for, is like single influence. I haven't started like awakening stuff, mavening stuff. That's going to be like the last guide that I'll make a min-max guide where, you know, I'll be like, this is like the best of the best stuff that you can go for. The best stuff to go for early is single influence, like easy to craft stuff that's just going to give you like really big damage. We have 3 spaces that the hunter influence is going to be really good. Some of them you can swap elder. We'll talk about which one for which. But gloves, quiver, neck, all hunter influence. The things that we're mostly looking for on these, for the quiver, it's damage over time multiplier. For the gloves, it's damage over time multiplier. These are things that you can best get on there by using fossil crafting. You can use the aberrant fossils because the chaos damage over time multiplier has the chaos tag. So now we'll bring up that other tab. Okay, so for gloves, the best type base, if you're looking for the best type base, is going to be gripped gloves. That's going to be an expensive base, so if you want something just like cheap to get on there, I mean, you could just buy an item that already has it, like if you can find a good deal. Chaos damage over time multiplier, HP, and attack speed on gloves. Those are like the 3 big things that you want to look for. And then, like, you know, if you get resistances or something else you need on them, that's good. The quiver, same thing. HP, chaos damage over time multiplier, damage over time multiplier, attack speed. Ideal would be a tier 1 damage over time multiplier, tier 1 chaos damage over time multiplier, attack speed, and then tier 1 HP. Like, if you can get all that stuff, like, you're doing crazy good on the item. But that's probably like 30-40 EX item. Like last league, my quiver was like that, and you know, so that's really hard to get together. I'll do a video on how to actually realistically get that. It won't cost you 30-40 EX. It'll just take a little bit of grinding and a lot of tries with crafting. So we're going to go for the chaos damage over time multiplier. Like I said, if you want a quick way to give yourself a chance to get that, the suggestion is aberrant fossils with also using pristine fossils. They're both cheap. Use a 2-socket resonator and then just basically spam it. That's going to give you a good chance to get the chaos damage over time multiplier with the HP. On the quiver, crafted attack speed is really good. The reason why, well, this is the gloves. Gloves, the attack speed can go up to 16%. So that's a lot better than the crafted, because the crafted only goes up to 12. So it's better to try and, you know, hope to get a tier 1 attack speed on the gloves, because the attack speed that we can craft on only goes up to 12%. Yeah, 7 to 12%. But if you don't get it, it's like, you know, I wouldn't stress it. Well, I mean, you can if you want. Like, if you really want to try and get that, then you could do 3-socket resonators, and you could do speed. You could go aberrant, pristine, and shuddering. So that would be how you could try to craft the gloves, but honestly, I wouldn't do that. Shuddering fossils are normally more expensive. I wouldn't do that unless you're using a top tier base, trying to do that. And like, if you don't plan on doing like Maven and Awakening on the gloves, that's kind of something you have to think about, because like, if you invest a lot on the initial base and you're planning on Mavening it, like, Mavening it's going to wind up removing one of the stats, and then possibly wind up like removing one that you don't want to remove. So, you know, will probably want to start with another base or not invest a ton into making your initial one. But that kind of depends on whether you're starting with an expensive base. Like, if you start with a gripped gloves, you know, 85 hunter base, then that's going to be a more expensive base. If you're just starting with something cheap, then you probably won't really care that much. And you'll just, you know, when you can afford to do the Mavening and Awakening and stuff like that, then, you know, you'll probably just start with a top tier base, because then you're using like really expensive stuff. You know, the Maven orbs are like 4 EX, the Awaken orbs like 6 EX. Like, when you're at that point, you probably want to start with the best possible base. Okay, so we've covered gloves, quiver, the neck. The neck, you're going to want to get a hunter necklace. The cheap and easy way, which is kind of like what I'm wearing, is basically you just use aberrant fossils on, you can use aberrant fossils in single socket resonators, or once again, you can go 2-socket resonators, aberrant and pristine, and try and get the HP with the chaos damage over time multiplier, or the plus to chaos damage skills. I'd probably just go with, like, I just went for the chaos stuff, just because, like, I wanted to try to get the +1 with the multiplier. The absolute best way to make it, which is what, you know, this would be like the endgame item, is you first get the +1 to dexterity skills on it, and then you make sure that you have 2 2 empty suffixes and 1 empty prefix, and then you use harvest and slam chaos slam chaos mod on it. It's like the chaos looking one, but that might take a while for you to save that up. So like I kind of made something for now, but I plan to make that later. Then it makes it so that you can have a +2 and the chaos damage multiplier, and that guarantees it. So all you have to do is, you know, get the +1 to dexterity skill gems, and then you just slam it 3 times with the chaos with the chaos slam, and then you have +2 to your, I just showed you what a +2 to your skill gem level does for you. And then you'd also have the chaos damage over time multiplier, and that would be like a crazy dope necklace. And then you'll also, the reason why you have to do 3 is because there's one other chaos stat, which more than likely, because this is a higher chance of hitting it, this is a 1500, and this is a 500, so 1,000 total. So that it's more than likely that you're going to wind up hitting chaos. We do want to pick up chaos resistance, so might as well pick it up there. That's why you need to have 2 open suffixes, 1 open prefix. You could wind up hitting it the first time, but you could also wind up in a situation where you get the chaos resistance and you're +1, and then you're in a situation where you have to try to remove something once you've already used slams, which I wouldn't personally want to put myself in that situation where I've already used multiple hard to get mods on something, and now I have to try and remove something, or I have to be like, alright, well, I'm not going to have the damage over time multiplier, which, you know, if you've taken the time to collect those mods from Harvest, you probably don't want to be in that position. Just a thought. Okay, so now we've covered necklace. Rings. The ring is kind of tied into our flasks. So Witchfire Brew is great early because it's cheap, and it gives us access to a level 21 Despair Curse, which, you know, when you're doing the boss and you swap out your flasks, you're going to just manual cast the Despair. But the end goal, the reason why I don't have an Influence Ring here yet, is because I am trying to make my Despair on hit ring, which is going to make it so that I'm going to be able to get rid of the Witchfire Brew, which will be replaced with the Dying Sun. Losing the aura or not having it be able to be, like having to only be able to manual cast it is really not ideal. So giving it this up, because this adds like 50% increased damage that enemies take. Let me check. I believe it's 50% at level 21. 51% at level 21. So level 21, it increases, it gives them a -30 to their chaos resistance, and I believe 21 increased dot. Oh, 25. 55% increased damage that enemies take. So, like, that's huge damage. We don't want to just be like, alright, we're just going to toss that out the window. So it's good to have that flask, because you see how you play the build, like inside of those rituals, like stuff is just all around you and you're dashing through them. Like the Witchfire Brew is applying that to all of them. So like that's really good. Obviously, you know, there are some times that we're not close to enemies or we don't want to be close to them and we still want to have our Despair Curse on them. So eventually you do want to have the Despair on hit. And when you do that, you want to switch out to the Dying Sun. The Dying Sun is another huge damage boost because it gives us up to 25% increased area effect, and it gives us +2 projectiles. That's easy projectiles. With our Ascendancy and the Dying Sun, we have 9 projectiles. That is enough. Like, most players will probably not get enough increased area of effect to have more than 9 projectiles overlapping. It's like really hard to get 10 projectiles to overlap. Having extra projectiles past what you can overlap is still good, though, because it increases the area that it covers, which just makes clearing easier. So having more projectiles than you can overlap isn't a bad thing, but as far as like stressing about getting more projectiles when you can't overlap them, you know, you shouldn't really worry about that, because, you know, it's not going to increase your single target, and as you can see, you know, the clearing's already really easy, especially with the Mirage Archers. Like, honestly, like, it wouldn't make for a very good video, but the way I play a lot is, like, I literally just run through the map, and everything just dies behind me. Like, being able to gauge how much DPS it does, the only time I go back is if something really good drops on my loot finder, because you can just speed run through stuff like so fast, because the Mirage Archers sit behind you, and you know 2.1 second 2.1 second dot time, and then also you know my Mirage Archers now last 9.8 seconds. Which is like funny because I won't see most stuff die, and I'm like at the end of the map and there's like 0 enemies remaining, and it's like, yep, it's definitely killing everything. Okay, so we've covered flasks. Let me address the hybrid flask. The only reason you need the hybrid flask is if you choose for your anointment to be hardened scars. Hardened scars, we'll bring this up in the tree. Hardened scars right here, it's a hidden one. You have to know what it is. It's teal, black, gold. This gives us fortify when we have a health flask up. The best way to do that is with an enduring hybrid flask. The reason why is because it only gives us fortify when we have a life flask up. If I just press a life flask, we'll use this one as an example. You watch up here. I use the flask, you don't even see fortify come up. The reason why is because I'm full health. So the flask isn't active. So if I use now the hybrid flask, you can see that fortify comes up. And it will last for 3.5 seconds. And that's a 20% reduction from damage that we're taking. That's big. I've chosen to use hardened scars. There are other choices if you want a defensive choice. Probably my recommendation, if you don't want to worry about trying to keep up that, inside of maps, you should be able to keep it up all of the time. Just plainly because, like, you should be able to. Because, like, you're regenning flasks from killing stuff. As long as you're actively killing stuff, you should always have your flasks refreshing. So, yeah. But if you don't want to worry about trying to keep that active, which it is something you have to be refreshing your flasks and reusing it every 3.5 seconds, my suggestion would be Golem's Blood. If you want something defensive, the reason why 1.6% regen with 10% max life, it's going to add like 200 HP, and then it's also 1.6% regen, which the way that the Toxic Rain is going to get sustain is through life on hit or through regeneration. Those are the only two ways that are actually realistic for getting life on this build, because it is an attack skill build, or you could get, I guess you could get Chaos Damage Leech. But that would take up a slot on your neck, which, you know, our neck is going to be pretty filled. You would have to give up your HP slot on a neck in order to have Chaos Damage Leech. So that would be like giving up a potential like 90 base HP for Chaos Leech. I mean, you could, but the other choice is to just go with more offensive. The best offensive choice I would choose would be to pick up this one, because it gives us a 10% damage over time multiplier and 1% life regen. That would be my choice if you wind up choosing to take that. The reason why, you can choose to go either one of these ways and still be able to fill out your clusters. Like, I can pull 4 points off of here and fill in this last cluster, and then I'm 92, so I have 3 more points at 96. I'll be able to have basically this whole tree minus these 4 points and full cluster jewels here, which is what my end. I'll probably stop it at 96 as far as leveling. So that's what the final tree is going to look like. This is pretty much what it's going to look like. The only other defensive choice that I would like to bring attention to is you could go with Glorious Vanity right here in this slot instead of having the Brutal Restraint over here. And then you could select the Chaos Damage Notable that diverts 50% of your elemental damage that you take to Chaos. The thing is that then you need to really overcap your Chaos, and you're still taking some elementals, so you still have to have elemental resistance. And since I'm picking up so much damage reduction in other places. It's just not something I'm going to do because, you know, we've got 30% damage reduction with max Gale Force. I've got 20% damage reduction from Hardened Scars. I've got my Immortal Call giving me 33% less damage taken. I've got Flesh and Stone reducing um, reducing physical damage by 16% and blinding nearby enemies. Like I've got a lot of damage reduction. It's pretty hard for me to go down. I mean, like I'm just leveling by just speed running maps. I'm not even being careful or anything like that. And I'm running juiced, only tier 14, 15, 16 volleying maps, running full mods. So you know, it's very tanky the way that I'm playing it. Like survivability, you will die sometimes, especially if you play as reckless as I do. But it's very uncommon, and you'll just level up just by playing. So yeah, the reason why I would take this as if you're going to choose the damage one is because this is the best damage choice, and it also gives us 1% life regen, which sustain. This, I mean, gives the same amount of damage that this gives because 20% increased damage over time is equivalent to 20% chaos damage over time, but this has 4% increased cast speed, which doesn't help us at all, and this has 1% regen, which helps us a lot. So the choice between those two things, it's a no-brainer. So Thread of Hope is going to be a really good thing when you can afford it, because it makes it so that for 6 points you can have 4 notables. 7 points you can have 4 notables. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7. So for every 2, or if you don't take this, if you don't take the regen, which you don't have to take, I just wanted more regen. I'm stacking regen. If you don't take this, then it would be 6 points for 3 notables, which these are all really good. You get 25% increased skill effect duration, which is really good for damage. This right here, you get attack speed and movement speed, which is good for damage and movement. And then you get this right here, 6% maximum life, and it gives increased flask effect and 30% increased life recovery from flasks. So more life when you use flasks, increased effect of your flasks and life, movement speed, attack speed, so damage and more mobility, and then lots of damage, and then this is just life and mana regen. So yeah, that's a really good spot. You need the very large Thread of Hope to be able to do that. Brutal Restraint is really good in this spot because we get 5 notables. There's really good stuff that we can pick up from this. You have guaranteed onslaught on kill. That's accessible on the Brutal Restraint. Also, the Brutal Restraint is really cheap right now. Even at week 1, they're like 10 chaos for one. So getting one is going to be really cheap. If you don't know how to reroll Timeless Jewels, just type in Big Poner, Timeless Jewel, and it should bring up. I did a tutorial on that like a while ago, so if you don't understand Timeless Jewels, just look that up. I'm not going to recover it. But we've got the things you want to look for: attack speed, percent max life, movement speed, onslaught. Those are the best things to look for on this. For myself, I've got 2 things on here that don't help me. I've got accuracy and elemental damage. Eventually, I've got 4 good things, 2 bad ones. Eventually, I'll probably try to go for like 5 or 6 good things, but I wound up hitting onslaught, attack speed, percent life, and movement speed. And it takes a divine orb to re-roll them, and I'm like, I don't possibly want to use a bunch of divine orbs at this moment, and possibly not even hit something better. So I'm just going to leave it for now. Eventually I'll wind up rolling it until I have all 6, but at this point in the league I have lots of stuff to upgrade, so I'm not going to dump a bunch of currency into that to possibly gain 2 stat increases, which best possible damage would be I hit 2 more attack speeds, or best possible defensively I hit 2 more HPs, and that could take me who knows how much trying. Okay, so I think we've covered gear, most of the gear. So my plan for boots is to have elusive, as you have my boots right here, these are basically set up to guarantee me elusive as soon as I get a crit augment from Harvest, because this is something good to remember because we already have Tailwind. So we only need elusive on our boots. On the boots, it's Redeemer. The cool thing is that elusive is tagged with the crit tag. That's the only thing that it's tagged with, and on Redeemer boots, the only thing that is tagged with critical is elusive. So there's nothing else that's tagged with critical on boots. So if we augment critical on Redeemer boots and there's an open prefix, it's guaranteed to give you elusive. So that's why my boots are sitting like that. Those will be basically my endgame boots unless I want to Maven them. The belt, this is a really easy defensive spot that you can pick up. Get the Elder or Hunter, because the Elder or Hunter has access to percent life. We'll bring this back up. This is a really good choice to pick up a lot of really good HP. All right, so I chose the Elder because it's just really accessible. Like, I made these like several days ago when like bases were like really hard to get. So I did the Elder belt because percent max life. The tier 1 would be 10%. With max catalysts, that would go up to 12%. And then also, Elder offers, like percent all resistances and increased attack speed during any flask. This would be really good. That's a lot of attack speed. So those would be good. And then we also have increased projectile damage during any flask. That scales our dot. So there's good stuff on here. There's also the chaos resistance during any flask. That would be really good because that would be like 30% more chaos resistance all the time. The way that to make this belt really cheaply, though, is to just focus on getting the HP stats. All you do is use single socket resonator with pristine fossils, which is really cheap to spam, and you just look for like tier 1 life with the percent life, and that's a ton of HP. That's a way you can make a really good one. If you're looking for something better and you want this stuff, then you could also add in using like the shuddering fossil and aberrant, so that you have more chances at the chaos resistance if you wanted the resistance there, and chances at the attack speed during the flask, because I believe that's the only speed modifier on this. So you could actually guaranteed slam on this right here, because it's the only speed modifier. So if you were to get this with like one slot open, you could guaranteed get that speed modifier if you had speed augment on your harvest. But last season those were really rare. They're probably still going to be rare this league, but we don't know how rare they're going to be. Time will tell. I've got those areas set up, but I haven't really farmed them yet. So, but like one out of every, I believe the one zone goes like one out of every like four, one out of like every 9, 1 out of every 8 maps you should be getting harvest. So, we'll see. The other choice though would be the Hunter, because it also has a percent max life and some other good stuff. But the reason why I chose Elder over Hunter is because this one gives us cast speed. Overwhelm does nothing for us. The movement speed's good for us, but there's just not as many good things. You do have the chaos damage here, but I just felt like the Elder has more good potential and the base was cheaper. So that's what I went with. You can make that decision. Obviously later on, you could Maven these items. You could Awaken and do Hunter and Elder if that's what you want to do. You could also go for a Stygian vise. The reason why I didn't is because, first of all, in order to get Hunter or Elder influence Stygian vise, you got to use the orbs. Expensive orbs adds more cost. Then you got to find your Abyssal Jewel, and then the Abyssal Jewel won't be affected by the catalysts because it only affects the actual item. It doesn't affect what's socketed into them. So you would need a pretty good Abyssal Jewel to be better than 48 life. Like tier 1 life on an Abyssal Jewel is 40. And then you could have 3 other stats. So if you have a really good Stygian Vice influence with the same stats and then you had a really good jewel, that is better. So if you want the best, then, you know, like if you're looking for endgame stuff, go for that. If you just want something that you can cheaply craft, you know, spend 10 chaos on a base and, you know, spend 50 chaos on some fossils and some single socket resonators and spam it and have a pretty dope item. Like that's what this probably cost me. I think it cost me like less than 100 chaos to craft this. So, you know, do you want to spend 100 chaos or do you want to spend 15 EX? Like, for me right now, I want to spend less than 100 chaos. You probably do too. Um, Gloves, you know, like I said, we want to go for the hunter base for the chaos damage over time multiplier. The other really good damage thing is the attack speed, and then we want HP. That's pretty much it. Obviously, later we can go for, you know, mavening those. The chaos damage multiplier, it adds 8% more to the max one, making it so that you could have 24% if you maven it. It's the same thing on the quiver. There's a maven ability to scale the chaos damage over time multiplier. So those are like the end game stuff. Um, so yeah, those are things to keep in mind. Obviously, the multi-mod on the bow, as soon as you can get that, that's the biggest damage increase. The helm, I mean, I'm honestly not sure what I'm gonna do with this. For now, it's just filling in the extra stuff that I need. Resistances, looking for big HP, and then like you can see, I've got intelligence crafted on there because like that's kind of one of the things that I needed. So right now it's kind of just like the stat cow for my build. The chest is going to stay the same. I did enchant it to give myself extra HP, but that's pretty much it. So I will have the POB linked in there. If there's any other questions as far as stuff, oh, let me talk about cluster jewels. So there's a lot of choices for cluster jewels. The two like most popular best thing would be a combination of broadside and tempered arrowheads. We have the broadside here. It's 25% increased area of effect. And then the tempered arrowheads is 10% damage over time multiplier, and it gives us 20% increased skill effect duration. Those are the two things that are really good. If you can get them on the same one, then if you can also have martial prowess, that would be the absolute ideal as far as the increased damage over time with bow skills, large jewel. There's other options though. So the other main option is like if you plan to do like really high delirium, you're gonna want a chaos jewel that causes them to have a 10% chance to explode for a quarter of their life. It's called I'm trying to remember the name of it. One second. Let me just instead of trying to rack my brain, I'm just gonna look at one of my other characters. So I know one of my characters has it. Unspeakable Gifts. So if you're planning on doing really high delirium with the build, you're probably going to want one of your large clusters to be a chaos one with unspeakable gifts. If you do go with one large chaos cluster, go with unspeakable gifts and wicked power are going to be like the two main things that you prioritize, because wicked power will give you increased skill effect duration and chaos damage. I believe 35% chaos damage. I know I have that one on the same jewel. Yeah, 10% skill effect duration, 35% chaos damage. So those are two. That would be the other option. This is another good This is another really good combination right here. You could have tempered arrows or the broadside with the double attack speed buff. That's pretty good. But tempered arrows with the broadside, the area of effect, and the skill effect duration with the multiplier, it's like primo. So yeah, the medium clusters are a good place to get a bunch of multiplier. On each one, you're probably going to want to have one of the two choices for a 10% damage over time multiplier. I like the exposure therapy because it gives 30% chaos resistance against damage over time. There's a decent amount of stuff that gives that that has chaos damage over time. Like there's chaos damage over time, like from Caustic Ground. There's a couple of monsters that do it. Some of the boss fights do it. So that's a nice thing to have. Bleed is it's a good thing to have. I like that. I like that rune. Another good thing that you can go for is the Flow of Life. Gives us percent life, percent regen, so that's like the sustain, and it gives us 24% increased damage over time, which is like increased damage is meh. Um, you know, it doesn't affect us that much, but it does give us a little bit of damage. So yeah, those are the cluster choices. I don't have like perfect ideal clusters. My clusters are better. This one kind of sucks. This one needs to be replaced. But yeah, it's week 1. But now you should have all the direction that you need to take your build where you want to go. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. If you're not already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you like this content, share it, like it, let me know. Thanks for watching. Peace.